in the governance sphere and in the probably the budget or the institutional sphere. In the productive area, I see three challenges: the climate, the innovation, and the population. We spoke already about climate and population a little bit. I just want to say a little bit more about innovation. I think that this is something that can unite Europeans and that already does. And that we in the university would be very happy with. And that is, of course, a big support for research and development, for education, for university education, and for mobility across Europe. And you know that we have since more than 20 years what is called the Erasmus program, which moves students across universities in Europe. That is very popular, and now I was very pleased to have a few students last year who introduced themselves to me. They were first years, 18 years old, and they told me, you're speaking about European integration. Well, we are very proud to be Erasmus children. We have our parents met in a European university. They married, they came to Belgium, and we are Erasmus students from a Spanish mother and a Belgian father, or a French father and a German mother, and we're here studying at your university. So that is something that takes time, of course, because remember the grandparents were living in the Second World War, or the great-grandparents, maybe, you know. But this is a change. That's the population change, that's the attitude change, but also we need, of course, to keep up with innovation, like actually India is doing with IT. We are cooperating a lot with India in IT, because it's probably with the United States the biggest partner. China is a large partner for all the things. India is a large partner for IT in China. So we need this, and the problem with Europe is not just the borders, it's the languages. We have so many. 28 countries, 25 languages. So, but again, I think you're familiar with that too. India is large, but there are other quite important languages in this country as well. Well, you solve the problem partly with English. We are two. But again, you can't imagine what a fight this could be in some universities to teach master courses in English. Because some people, especially in Belgium, where we have two languages and one was dominant, French, so the people with the other language, Dutch, they say, our grandparents, again, sorry, it's still alive, our grandparents have fought to have classes in Dutch instead of French. And now you want us to have classes in English. But you must understand, and you certainly understand it because not all of you are native English, and I am not either, as you noticed. Are not native English or Hindu speakers, that it takes a lot of effort, and to some people more than others, and it has nothing to do with the mathematical abilities, it has to do with just the language abilities, that it takes a lot of effort to study and say complicated things in another language. So, but nevertheless, we need this kind of lingua franca, we need this kind of way to speak to each other and to not just speak, but do some work together in a common language. It happens through history that it is English, it used to be Latin, but that's like in the time of the Middle Ages of Europe. Here, I don't know what it was, but we kind of need that. But this is nevertheless. And nevertheless, that is part of the European project since the very beginning. How to get scale economies in Europe. How to get an industry that reaches large enough size to be competitive worldwide in Europe, where markets are united on paper, united administratively, but where people speak different languages. That's not really easy. That remains a challenge. And that's going in the right direction, and I think that moving students and professors is certainly part of it, but it's not all of it. But it's a part. Let's move to the next challenge, besides the economic or political challenge, the governance challenge. Governance, two main fields, inside and outside. Outside first. I put it there, but I put it this way. The governance idea is that, you know, world trade is not always going the right direction. There are monopolies, there are fights for natural resources, there are issues about intellectual property, especially with China. There are issues with social conditions of workers, child labor, and that kind of things, and so on. You know the answer to all these issues, but these issues should be dealt with, cannot be ignored. Now, Europe has, I think, two goals on these issues, which is not yet fulfilling perfectly, but it is a big potential in two. One is Europe has a big market. So it can set rules for its market that will have an influence on others. Because if you want to trade with Europe, you need to kind of comply. The US does it fairly strongly, you know. If you want to trade with the US, you have to comply. When the US says, when Donald Trump says, I stopped the deal with Iran, and every company in the world which is still doing business with Iran cannot do business in the US anymore. Well, all the French companies immediately left Iran because they didn't want to be banned from the US. It's too big a market. They couldn't lose that. So this is extremely strong. When the US said banks, we know that some Swiss banks are doing some fiscal things, tax avoidance. So we have found a solution. No bank can do business with the US if it doesn't comply with US taxes. And taxes of the US, they apply to every US resident and every US citizen, non-resident citizen, worldwide. Well, banks, most of the European banks at least, they comply. Or they stop doing business with American citizens. It happens that my oldest son was born in the US when I was still a PhD student, so he is a US national, a Belgian national. There is only one Belgian bank which was willing to accept to have a banking account for him. He's not rich, he is below the taxable income of the US. He's a young professional, but he's still below. Fortunately, the US has been reasonable in the taxable income of non-resident nationals, so he doesn't have to pay tax, but the bank has to report him as a US national having a bank account and having some income on this bank account. So there is only one Belgian bank which was willing to pay the cost of filling all these US forms for this young guy who was not earning taxable income but needed a bank account. So you see how powerful that can be. Well, Europe is not playing that game yet, but the European market is as big as the US market, a little bit smaller. And that brings me to the next point. If that is so strong, then you have a responsibility to cooperate with the US, but with China, with India, with the world in general, so that the rules become acceptable to all. Of course, they can still be different, but they should not be targeted against one or the other. Okay? Because every country has a right to develop, every country has a right and need to trade, and we can benefit from it as well. If not in the short run, at least in the long run. In the short run, there are always adjustment costs. In the long run, usually if trade is fair, there is a benefit from it. So I think Europe has a lot of work to do inside and outside to use the power of its large market to improve the rules of commerce and service and economic business in the world. But not just in the US way of the non-concerted, but I term beside that, no? Also, with the cooperation, will be much more fruitful. But if needed, also, say, okay, you want to be in your market? These are the ones. Next, inside. Inside, Europe has provided a lot of opportunities to a lot of people. It should continue. But it might have to be more careful on two other points. One is protection. People must feel safe in Europe. We have probably one of the strongest social protection systems, but people must feel safe with it. And probably we need to do something more. Maybe we need also to do some education about the fact that mobility is not losing its maybe better. But protection is important to maintain and probably to improve. And then, take back control, give people more voice, more place into the decision. Not just through elections, but through lots of other things that actually have made countries like Europe and the United States strong, and of which your university, I think, is also an example, which is the possibility for groups of citizens to contribute to important areas of public policy through their own initiative with some support of the government or of taxes and so on. So my university is a university that was founded by private citizens and which is now recognized and funded by the government, but which still has some autonomy in the way it administers itself, it manages itself, but also, of course, has an obligation to report on what it does to the government, because it's funded by the government. But in such universities, people feel like they are part of the game. They have a responsibility and they are part of contributing to the general welfare. People are in Europe very active in environmental groups and doing things for the environment. Well, that's good. It's important that people, and in the US, lots of people have also invested in universities, invested in social programs, invested in. I think that is very important, and it goes beyond just having elections once in a while, which is also very important. Political parties must also make sure that they represent enough people, that they have enough diversity. In Belgium, we have now the obligation for political parties. We vote on a system, maybe that's unusual. Britain doesn't have that at all. They have a first past the post system with small areas where one candidate, probably that's the Indian system as well. Yeah. We have what is called the proportional system. So there are party lists, and the seats in a bigger area are shared according to the number of votes of the parties, and then the people who fill the seats are according to their personal number of votes within the party. You see? So it's a kind of... in these lists now, parties are obliged to have man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. Or they can do the opposite. Woman, man, woman, but there cannot be two men or two women after the other in the list. So they have to have this equality, and it's more than just out of 10, 5 of each. No, it's if the first one is a man, the second one is a man. This is just an example. Making sure that people feel that they have something to say and that they have a chance, what is called sometimes legislative voice. My last point was on the budget. I think that when we think of a budget, we have to go back to the fundamental list of Musgrave you probably have studied in economics, which is stabilization, redistribution, allocation. Nothing is of allocation. The budget must promote the good use of resources, so we must tax according to elasticities or according to externalities and that kind of things. It must redistribute from rich to poor and so on, and it must stabilize. That's the big Keynesian revolution, that the government budget is able to stabilize activity, and that social security is even better at that because it's an automatic stabilizer. It pays when the economy is down, and it gets money when the economy is up. So wonderful. in Europe, the European institutions have to do that with subsidiarity. So they have to do only the part of the budget that the countries or the municipalities cannot do. That's very important, otherwise countries will not accept. But in stabilizations, we had examples a moment ago with the crisis, the banking union, at the level of the currency union, not necessarily the whole European Union, but the currency union must do the banking union, otherwise the currency union cannot work. Another point that was being studied recently, just at the time of the crisis, was that instead of having a discretionary fund that would help the countries with financial problems, especially the financial problems which are due to speculation, not due to bad management, these could be more automatic. One thing that was studied is why not have a common unemployment fund that would pay unemployment benefits at the European level that would still be managed at the local level, because you cannot know a person who is unemployed in Spain, but or in Stockholm. But nevertheless, since social security is an automatic stabilizer and spends when there is a downturn and it earns money when there is an upturn, nevertheless, there are when it spends, it may sometimes have to spend a lot. And for some countries that may increase the debt and that may be perceived as risk. So if there is some kind of automatic solidarity on the automatic stabilizer, it's kind of a European-wide insurance system that would not involve net transfers, at least not in expected terms. In realized terms, it may have net transfers, but in expected terms, there is no reason why one country would be more often in recession than another, or would have more unemployed economy. So that could be an insurance system like medical insurance. It could be a European-wide unemployment insurance system. Research. I told you we need scale economies, we need to work together. Some big successes have been Airbus. That's one thing. There are other successes. In some research areas, we don't need big things. Well, not for research, but for the output. Well, we have in small Belgium, we have a lot of biotech companies. We have lots of biotech labs next to the universities and creating new medicines for lots of illnesses, sometimes very difficult genetical illnesses and so on, and this can be dealt with by biotechnology. For a small lab, you need very clever people, you don't need big. But once these medicines are ready, you need a big company to sell them worldwide. But for other things like the Airbus, there you need to do the research in various places, small research, one about the engine, one about the design and so on, but nevertheless you need to put all that together, and to sell airplanes, there you really need big markets. So we need, for research, there is a discussion about military union. Again, that is very difficult to convince all these countries to put their armies together. And that costs a lot of money, well, a lot of money, because 1 or 2% of GDP, the army, less than 1% in Belgium, 4% in the US, but nevertheless, it's still small. But there is something very important behind armies, and that is research. It's still true that there is a lot of creativity in military instruments, and that putting that together could increase the potential. I don't know if that is very important, but that is certainly one. And again, it is an example of the subsidiarity. The soldiers can be paid by each country. That's the research is, or could be, I'm not sure this is the most important. Research in universities, that could certainly be good. But again, at the beginning, the European Union said we are only competent for pooling because national universities are financed by national governments. And so every project that you wanted to do with European funds, you first had to find 2 or 3 partners in different countries. This became paperwork, and this became quite often also a little bit artificial. Some universities were there just to, show that there was European cooperation. And then Europe decided, okay, maybe research is not something worldwide. People publish in journals that are not local, worldwide. So we're going to need European researchers, but individual European researchers. And it worked. They managed to create this big ERC, European Research Conference, I think, or what is it? ERC, where individual scholars can apply for individual projects to set up, of course, a team, but this team can be in their own university. It doesn't have to be spread across 3 countries. And so I have a few, not many yet, but in I have one colleague who benefited from that. And indeed, that was great because that helped him travel abroad, that helped him attract postdoc students in his team and so on. And that's something that, the national governments do not always do, or they do not always insist enough on the international dimension of the research. So that is something that you're progress. So subsidiarity in budgets. Pollution has, of course, more larger than one country, so that's something Europe should work on. Taxing pollution at the European level, because otherwise, especially in Belgium and the Netherlands, we are countries who are rich because we have big harbor. All the ships come through our streams through these 2 countries, and then they are unloaded and the goods go to France and Germany. So we are countries of transport. That's one of the businesses, not just the harbor, but once the goods are in the harbor, they have to go further. So we have lots of people who are in the business of driving trucks, basically. So it's very hard to convince Belgium that there should be a tax because fuel of the trucks is polluting. If it's European, and the Belgian truck drivers will say, well, then the German will come to the harbor and we will not be able to drive the goods anymore from the harbor. So we kind of need cooperation. But it would be easier if we had, the things they have in the US Constitution. Again, I don't know about the Indian federal system and you have to learn. But in the US Constitutions, they have some clauses which are extremely powerful. They have the clause of commerce, which makes it possible for the central government to claim that it has the right to intervene because it is affecting interstate commerce. But there has another one. You know how Obamacare survived in the Supreme Court? And how Roosevelt was able to introduce unemployment insurance in 1930s? Because there is a clause of right to tax of the federal government that dates back to the repayment of the debt of the independence war of the United States. At some point, they needed some kind of mutualization of this debt. They gave the federal government the right to levy taxes, always a very sensitive issue, and local governments don't want to give that to a higher level of government, but in the US they did. And so, when Obamacare was attacked at the Supreme Court, one of the arguments was this is not a federal right, this is something that the states should do. And then the Supreme Court judges looked back to the Constitution, and of course the Obama lawyers also, and they said government has a right to tax. And the Obamacare is compulsory. It is funded by a tax. For those who don't have knowledge, it's a tax. So it's indeed, since the federal government has a right to tax, it has a right to use the tax to the Obamacare. Same thing with the Roosevelt unemployment insurance in the 30s. States could do it, but if they didn't do it, the federal government would do it, and there was a national tax which would be refunded to the states who did the unemployment insurance, and otherwise it would be the federal government in the states who didn't. Again, this was based on this article, getting back to the independence war of debt, that the federal government. It is in Europe exactly the opposite. So far, it is just not possible for the European Union. There's no ability to action. It's written in the treaties that the tax is a national government privilege. And, by the way, written, Magna Carta, no tax without representation. So, we get back to the voice point. If the European wants to be able to tax, it of course needs a strong parliament which is able to vote on the tax and the budget. And we're back to the voice ID to take back control. So I'm coming to the end of my talk. I hope it was not too much, too tiring in this warm room, but because we are very numerous. And it's about time to go. It's a bit more. Sorry. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you my enthusiasm for Europe and its future, but also to share with you, of course, the difficulties of a process that is still under construction, but that is fundamentally a peace process and a process to improve the standard of living of all our nations. Thank you very much.